visual, then there's a KP there at least.
Yep, we got you. All right, welcome in 6:30, Friday, May 26th for another Friday Safety Focus of the Week. This week's code of conduct is to promote the code. Anything to add on our code item of the week, Mr. Dow?
It's number 13. It's the one that resets us for the whole package to start over again with 1 through 12. Promote the code.
Yep, like it. Okay. So 23 days from our last recordable injury, 10 days from our last. So we've gone the last 7 days without any major issues out there. So again, let's start every day with a nice morning briefing, talking about our known hazards and how we're going to mitigate and control our job site hazards through that JHA, utilizing the hierarchy of controls. So any questions on any site hazards, please contact Health and Safety. We'll come out and look at any trenching, means of egress, fall protection issues that you may have. We're here to help. With that said, we're going to kick it over to Amy for another wellness series today. Thanks for getting up early with us this morning, Amy, and take it away.
Good morning. Let me share my screen here. All right, so we're going to talk about elbow pain today. Now that you guys are in full swing into the construction season, there's lots of things you guys do with your hands, wrists, elbows, lots of gripping and grasping that's going on. And what we're seeing is a lot more elbow injury. So tennis elbow and golfer's elbow are the typical names for elbow pain, even though, you might not be playing tennis or golf. It's the same mechanism. So we see it with lots of gripping, vibration, repetitive movements, rotation and twisting. At the bottom, you see a lot of the jobs that can be getting those, that we'll see those in people that are carpenters, mechanics, plumbers. So anyone can really get these elbow pains. So what is tennis elbow and what is golfer's elbow? You'll hear it called a couple things. So for tennis elbow, lateral epicondylitis or lateral elbow tendinopathy are two different names for it. It's pain on the outside of the elbow. So if you turn your palm up and you go to the outside, that's where it is. It's when the tendons are overloaded. So repetitive motions of gripping and extension. So that motion there. And golfer's elbow is on the other side. So again, if you turn your palm up, it's on the inside of that elbow, also called medial epicondylitis or medial elbow tendinopathy. And it happens when the tendons on the inside of the elbow are overused. Same thing, repetitive gripping, but also pronating, so that twisting and turning. So looking at the anatomy of it, this is the outside of the elbow. It occurs at this little tendon where all the muscles attach. So you see that little white piece in that circle, those are the tendons where these big muscles attach. And if you see this picture, you get a bigger view of what's happening. So this little tendon at the top, you have, I think, about 4 or 5 muscles that are attaching. And then they go all the way down to your hands and turn into tendons, which allow you to grasp there. So there's a lot of force being put on this tiny little area. So again, you have an extra long day of work, and then say you go home and start wrenching on your car or doing yard work. That's that overload above a typical day. That might be something that sets this off. You go to work, you go mountain biking, you do lots of gripping for the first time of the season. That might set it off. So what do you feel when you get this? It's pain or burning at that outside of the elbow. Pain can be radiating down the forearm. You might notice your grip strength is weak. It might be harder to hold on to things, and pain at night, especially if you're straightening and bending that elbow. You move in bed, you straighten that elbow out, and all of a sudden it wakes you up in pain. And those are pretty common symptoms that we'll see. So golfer's elbows on the other side. Again, this one's 5 muscles that converge onto one little tendon. And as you see, the tendon's the white at the top. You have 5 muscles, it turns into tendons again, which goes into your hands and allows you to grip. And what do you feel here? It's tenderness on the inside of the elbow, pain that can radiate down that front side of your forearm, weakness and grip strength again. And this is gripping and pronating. So this twisting and turning of your palm is what tends to get the inside of the elbow. So very similar mechanisms of how you get it. It just depends what area is overloaded in your body. So red flags, these are things that we should be a little more concerned about. Numbness and tingling in the forearm or hand, that means a nerve is not happy. So that could be a nerve at the elbow, a nerve at the shoulder or neck, or a nerve at the hand. So we would want to look that out. Loss of feeling or sensation in the forearm or hand. So again, pinched nerve, the pinched nerve might be going on somewhere. A significant loss of strength in the wrist or hands. So not just that, oh, this just doesn't feel right, but really not able to grasp, or pain or weakness in the shoulder. So any of those things are things that you definitely need to get checked out. So how do we treat this? Is pain management and gradual strengthening. We want to, if you leave this alone, it stays there. It's one of those injuries where if you do nothing, it'll go away short term, but the minute you start using your hands again, the pain's going to come back. And the reason is the tendons actually change structure when they get overloaded and repetitively overloaded. So that structure is changed, the issue is still there. So what we have to do is gradually load the elbow through some strengthening in order to get that tendon to rechange its structure to go back to load properly. So the best way to think about this is if you have a rope and that rope is nice and straight, you have a really good tensile force that can get put on that rope. But if that rope is really knotted, like a ball of yarn, we're not getting that same great force out of that. And that's kind of what's happening when these tendons get overloaded and you get this pain in your elbow. Another thing we want to do is avoid heavy lifting or repetitive activities if possible. Or again, if that's part of your workday, taking breaks between those activities, doing some easy exercises that could take 30 seconds or a minute to just let that muscle kind of reset while you're working on the pain management and gradual strengthening. So typical exercises that we do for this, foam rolling, or this is a picture of the stick or tennis ball rolling to those muscles, followed by some stretching, and then followed by strengthening. And then what we usually start with is the isometrics. So that's not moving through motion, that's just applying resistance and holding it in one place. And then we'll start loading it up with some weights. There's this cool little device that you could twist and turn that gets that slow component of that motion that we really like. And that is all I've got for today.
Yeah,
Amy,
thanks,
those
Amy. Very
exercises-
informative. These are definitely some of the injuries that we're seeing early in the construction season for sure. So very informative, and thanks for helping getting our people back to work in a timely manner.
You're
Appreciate
very
it.
welcome.
So Amy, that exercise, is that for recovery or any of that prevention? If you know you're going to be doing a lot of the same repetitive motions, can you kind of help your muscles and your body be prepared for, more extensive long-term activities by doing the exercise beforehand or as you ramp up?
That's a great question. Yes. Those can be used as preventative exercises by ramping up and adding in basic like stretching, rolling, and strengthening exercises that you don't have to, take all day to do. That can definitely help to prevent some of the injuries.
Good. Okay. All right. Thanks.
You're very welcome. Have a good day. Good
Yeah,
long
have a good
weekend.
holiday weekend. Happy Memorial Day.
You guys too.
Okay, I'll take over the screen here. Okay. Can you see my screen?
We got it.
All right. So the tendinopathy, whatever. I don't use that word every day. Do you guys?
No.
Tendinitis.
Yeah.
All right. The announcements. Hey, Monday is Memorial Day. And remember our fallen heroes on that day and the whole weekend. So ECI's offices are closed. And we have a few notes related to that. First of all, secure your job site for the long weekend. Removal of all keys, block entry into job trailers, prep for safe passage by the traveling public, etc. And that's important on these long weekends. We always have more vandalism or theft activities during the longer weekends, and especially the longer summer weather weekends, especially.
Yep.
Another thing,
Yeah,
submit your time. Sorry.
Oops. Yeah, Ken, if you don't mind, this Memorial Day is historically our worst by far
Is it? Yeah.
versus July 4th. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, this one is always it's pretty much the last 3-4 years we've been hit hard
Mhm.
on Memorial Day.
Yeah. You know, for like blocking entry in the job trailer, sometimes we wrap the excavator bucket over the front so they can't even open the doors if they were able to break through the locks. So everything you can do makes sense is certainly going to be a help.
Yeah.
So the next item, to submit your time records by 6 a.m. Tuesday morning so they can be processed by your project managers and the accounting department. For next week's payroll, this is just a reminder of, please remember, it's not for this week's payroll, but for next week's Monday entry, you need to put 8 hours of HOL time, and it's the job 14, cost code 14, and earn code HOL. So that's the process. And if you have any questions, just check with the accounting department or Sarah. Morgan Stanley Financial Advisors will be at ECI on Friday, June 2nd. That's next week. So half-hour meetings are available from 9 a.m. to noon to discuss your 401k account. So check with Ursula about making an appointment. And I just left a couple announcements on here. The supplemental profit distribution for 2022. So that should be in your 401k plan. I think I said that last week or the week before that I put the link here, and I have a link at the bottom of this note so you can connect to the Newport group and log in if you have your login credentials. If you don't, then certainly going to the 401k Morgan Stanley meetings next week, if you set up an appointment, I'm sure that they'll help you out. And the healthcare premium holiday is set to start on next Friday on the June 2nd paycheck, 14 weeks. And also, if you haven't done it yet, the health declaration form HC2 must be completed each year. So that if you haven't done it, check with the accounting department. And it's Memorial. Any comments there?
I think people that needed to get those done, we mailed them so they will receive it in the mail.
Right. Yeah, I should have put a link there, but they didn't give me one. The accounting department didn't give me a copy. But I'll see if I can do that next week. And I'm sure there'll be a short list coming of people who haven't done that. So it's Memorial Day, and I just want to pause and remember Kevin Sheehan, who was a former employee of ECI. He was a National Guard member, and he was deployed to Iraq in 2004, and unfortunately he was killed in action on May 25th, which was yesterday. The anniversary would be yesterday. So 19 years ago yesterday, Kevin was killed in action. So we miss you, Kevin. Kevin leaves behind his wife, Heather, daughter, Allison, and son, let's see, Ben, what was his son's name? Is his son's name?
Nathaniel.
Nathaniel, yes.
I think
yes.
the kids are 22 and 25 now.
Wow.
They were
Yeah, well,
3
it's been 19 years.
Yep. He was a.
Well, thank you.
I wish he was still around. He promoted a lot of positive energy. He was like one of the people that always made something positive happen, right?
Right.
He had a great sense of humor. If he was smiling at you, he probably did something that some joke that you were gonna find out about.
Yeah. Well, Thank you to Kevin and all our fallen heroes for their sacrifice. We do have a celebration here of the newest ECI baby. This is Maddox James Lumbra, 7 pounds, 11 ounces, 21 inches. Congratulations to Jesse and Amber and siblings Chloe and Luca.
It's like, what is that thing? What is that camera thing?
It was that phone thing. Huh?
Whoa.
And there they are, the whole family. Isn't that great? What
The
a
older
great
ones,
weekend
the
for them.
older kids always are like, hey, wait a minute, what's going on here? What is this?
Yeah, the little boy there. He's got the look. Huh? What's this? So here's our new employees. I got 2 of them. There's Andrew McDermott and Manny Chipinelli. So welcome, guys. I met Manny. I haven't met Andrew yet, or Drew, I guess he goes by.
Yeah.
So I have the primary care primary care wellness program link, and this week we're going to talk about the VTrans Highgate AV FY 20-06, which is the Franklin County Airport improvements. Is Mark on or Jeremy? I don't know if Jeremy's on. He might have a lot to say about this, and anyone else who works on the project.
I am on, Ken.
All right. Do you want to take over the screen? Or you want me to scroll?
You can scroll.
Okay. All right. I'll get you right to here.
Sure.
Go ahead.
So the background, which Mr. Dow was employed to write this part because he knows the most about the airport. I don't know if any of you guys know, or probably most of you know, he has an airplane that usually is stored up there at the Highgate Airport, but currently is tied down over in Burlington.
Yep.
So he knows the history up here. The Franklin County State Airport expansion consists of upgrading the runway to accommodate larger aircraft and bring it up to current federal guidelines. The current 3,000 foot by 60 foot runway was constructed in 1969 when the airport was purchased by the state of Vermont. Mr. Dow's getting a little bit ahead of himself here. Our project actually is going to keep the runway at 3,000 feet, this year's project.
But we got the other one to make it 4,000, so I stuck that in there.
Next year we're going to add on 1,000 feet. So this year project is going to construct a 3,000 foot by 75 foot. We're going to add 15 feet on one side, which will overall it's going to accommodate larger aircraft, including single engine cargo and passenger planes and corporate jets. The existing runway subbase gravel will be supplemented with added material and reuse of the existing material. The runway lighting system and signage will be completely replaced and be brought up to current specifications. The areas adjacent to the new runway will be graded to meet the runway specifications and to meet current stormwater requirements. Construction included reclamation of a little over 20,000 square yards, addition of aggregate, and remixing with the reclaimers. So we went through, did an initial reclaim, just chewed up the existing sub base to a depth of about 10 inches. Then we came through and spread some gravel on top and reclaimed that in. As part of this, we equipped a portable lab with some aggregate testing equipment. We purchased a Transtech non-nuclear compaction gauge so we can do all of our own in-house compaction testing. We also, for this airport project, we use a modified Proctor set of molds and hammers. We also have standard Proctor molds and hammers, but for the FAA work, it's the modified that we use. And Mike Ronaldo went and got certified over the winter aggregate testing. Some of you might see him also out on the hot mix. He also got certified for hot mix testing and concrete testing. And we also bought a thin lift hot mix gauge, which won't be used as part of this project, but you will see him out there testing some mix. He's actually already been out on a few jobs already. As previously stated, we're going to extend the width of the runway from 60 feet to 75 feet. We're actually adding the 15 feet goes along the west side of the runway. We've installed actually already 3 temporary sediment basins. We've got a bunch of excavation up here over the 12.5 acres surrounding the airport. There was almost 32,000 yards, which most of it's complete at this point. We, after much back and forth with the state, we are going to install, or we have installed a fair chunk of this manufactured topsoil. And when we're all done, actually, we've already done all the temporary seeding to date, but we have to permanently seed it when we're done. We also purchased a Fin 75 hydroseeder as part of the effort to make our seeding on the project more efficient. Again, that's been used out on some of the projects already besides the airport. Some of you folks have already seen it and used it. There's new electrical installations as well. We put in a new vault already. We subbed to Kobo, an outfit out of Massachusetts, to do this work. The vault's all in and pretty much all wired up. There's new runway and edge lighting and end lighting, new lighted signs, and they're gonna relocate the PAPI, which is a precision approach path indicator. That's for folks that have actually, no, that's not instrumentation, right? That's if you line your plane up right, it's Mr. Dow can tell you, what is it? 3 red and you're dead. Is that the saying?
Yep. Red and white, 2 red and 2 white. You're all right. If they're all red, you're too low. That means you're dead. And if they're all white, you're too high.
We are going to pave the runway. There's 6,200 ton or so to be done out there. And then once that's all done, we do what they call temporary lines on airport projects is a little different than the way we think of them on the roadway. They actually do a 50% application after it's paved. And then I believe we got to wait 28 or 30 days before we can do the final sign striping application. Closure of the runway occurred on April 17th. There's actually, if you go up there, we have yellow X's and we have lighted X's as well because it's closed 24/7. So when you close an airport at night, you have to have lighted X's so the pilots know that that's closed. To date, the electrical vault, the conduit, the duct banks, junction boxes, and the precast cans for the edge lighting have all been installed. All 3 temporary sediment basins have been installed. Excavation is almost complete. About a third of the topsoil has been installed and stabilized. And I say stabilized because we have some state officials that keep track of the birds up there, and we haven't been allowed to seed it. All we can do is mulch it. The reclamation and addition of aggregate is to be completed through this week. It's actually all done. They tested it yesterday. So pending the aggregate testing results, which we expect on Tuesday, we'll begin the widening process next week, which will be a matter of shuffling the material over because we have to add stabilization fabric underneath the subbase. We expect fine grading and paving to occur the first 2 weeks of June. And then, as we talked about earlier, we also got the project for next year up there, which is to add 1,000 feet to the runway on the south end. And actually, it's going to put a parallel taxiway as well as part of the project to the south end.
These are from the erosion control plans, I believe.
Yep. This what you're seeing right now is the south end, and there's taxiway Alpha, Bravo in that part, which Alpha and Bravo are actually Bravo is probably directly across from the FBO, roughly, Mr. Dow, right? Or
Yep.
Not quite, pretty close.
On the south end of it, yeah.
And some of these taxiways get reconfigured. I think Charlie stays for next year but Alpha and Bravo get reconfigured. Alpha actually is going to be the parallel taxiway to the end, and Bravo gets moved slightly. You can see the stormwater ponds. Those two stormwater ponds are on the north end of the project.
Does the water actually get there? It's very sandy soil.
It's kind of hilarious. These ponds, I don't even think they've seen a drop of water since they've been constructed. And when the latest direction on these two specifically is that we're gonna fill them when we're done. They were just temporary. So, but yeah, they don't. They really are just kind of a waste of money, unfortunately. We appreciate because we like the work, but
Right, we like
they
to
have
move
not
forward.
seen a drop of water. That's a picture of the final typical section for the airport. As you can see, there's 6 inches of sub base, what they call P208, which is a finer sub base for on the FAA end of things. Some of you that worked on it have heard of P154 and P209. P209 is a aggregate sub base, just like P208. P28 would be, or P209 would be more similar to our dense grade. Those of you that do a lot of AOT work would be familiar with that. And the P208 is a little more familiar to our subbase of crushed gravel.
So I don't see the fabric. Where are you saying the fabric is?
It's along the bottom. Yeah, it doesn't show in this section, I don't believe.
I didn't, there were a couple different sections. I didn't notice that there was a difference, but that may be it. Okay. Oh, I put this in here just because normally when we talk about line striping on a project, it's kind of that last finishing touch, but it's not quite as dramatic and striking as on an airport, huh?
No, except those markings are huge.
Right, that's
It's
what
actually,
I mean.
it's paid
I
by
mean,
the
look at
square foot in
Right, look
airport.
at the number 336 extends, let's see, that's 100 feet. It looks like it's about maybe 60 to 70 foot long on the number 3, right? Or number 6 and the number 3.
Yeah.
Those are big
Yeah, and
numbers.
those big bars are 150 feet long. So it's,
Wow.
of course, you can imagine as you're approaching this thing, from the air, you want something that's visible,
Right.
right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. It's just quite different than what we're normally doing for line striping.
And you got to be able to read them when you're coming in to make sure that you're landing on the right runway.
Yeah, you hope the other guy can read it too.
Yeah.
So here's a picture of Jim doing the initial reclaim up there. You can still see in the background, there's a little bit of pavement left. The borings indicated that there was anywhere from 3.5 to 4.5 inches of asphalt. When we got out there, there was actually only 2 to 2.5, which is a testament to maybe all the specs and stuff we add today aren't really where it's at. That hot mix, that was the original pavement, Mr. Dow, right? They've never really repaved other than some patching where they put some duck banks across the runway.
Yeah.
So for 2.5 inches of hot mix to last over 50 years is pretty impressive.
It never moved, never heaved. It was always well drained.
Here's a picture of, I believe, Derek in the excavator. I can't quite tell. It looks like he's digging one of the ponds. If I had to, or maybe this is actually the ditch line down the west side of the runway.
Nice material.
And the
Kinda
boys
dry.
set a record up there. At least I don't know if anybody keeps track of historic records, but they moved 4,000 yards one day up here.
Wow.
There's a picture of Charlie in the new 700. Looks like he's cutting the ditch line there.
Nice looking machine.
Yes.
That's
This
a
is
nice
picture. This
Yeah.
is one we were saying looks like the safest trench excavation of the week.
Yeah, yes. We not only did we have to dig these ponds, we had to put in these anti-vortex devices to get rid of the water that doesn't show up. Actually, Jeremy, because those collars you see, that sheet metal sticking up out of the ground, are anti-seep collars. Of course, you'd have to have water for it to seep. Jeremy named them dust control barriers, so they're knocking down the dust.
Yeah, I see. Crazy. And this is temporary.
Temporary, yep. There was about 18 grand there was 3 of these units for each of the 3 temporary sediment basins. About 18 grand worth of materials that we'll pull out and keep when we're done.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh man.
Here's
the deep work, huh?
Yes. Yep. There's another one. That one looks to be like the one on the east side of the runway, northeast side of the runway. You can see the hangars in the background. The hangars are on the north, for the most part, on the northeast side of the runway.
Our geotech lab.
Yeah, here's a picture of Mike running some gradations. You can see the silent sifter, it's called. That's our Gilson shaker. And then just above it, the brown thing you kind of can't see on the shelf, that's his drying oven. You can see he's got some sieves there that he's in his computer. He's looks like his scales in the background there. He's run a ton of gradations for us. We went up on the 18th of April, the day after we closed the runway, and did 7 test sections. One was the same area we reclaimed twice, so we could get a feel for how much degradation we'd have from the passing of the reclaimer. But we ran 6 areas that we wanted to see what we were dealing with, so we could come up with a good idea of how much blend stone we'd have to add and what we'd have to add. And there's been a whole bunch of testing. We checked the nearby aggregate quarry of Bordeaux, sorry. Their material we couldn't get it to add enough material in the right sieves for us. So we ended up settling in on 1.5 inch crushed stone out of Wickham that we blended.
Moving a lot of earth on this job, that's for sure.
Yes. There's another picture of it. Looks like Derek. We had 3 haul trucks up here, the 2 that ECI owned, and we rented a 3rd one just to make sure that we'd have them running all the time. And to date, I don't believe any of the 3 have broken down. I think they've been flawless, although I think Scott Burns stole one from us last week to go back to Bushy Pit and get some work done.
And this is probably one of the larger jobs ECI's done as far as area that we've reshaped. A lot of square yard or a lot of acres here. What'd you figure, like 12.5 acres or something like that?
Yeah, that's what they're if you do the math on their quantities for seeding, that's what it comes up as. I think we're actually going to exceed those quantities a little bit. So it's actually a little bit bigger than that. Again, there's a picture of Jim doing the initial reclaim.
Yeah, you can tell there's not much pavement. It doesn't mix very much and it's just looks like sand after you mix it.
It pretty much was. There was a small layer. It definitely was SLC material. You could see the white. It was 3 to 4 inches of it looked like a 3/4 inch plant mix or something. It was fairly fine. And the reason we picked 1.5 inch stone was this stuff had no top end to it whatsoever.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's Mr. Dow directing Jim on how to run the reclaimer. You showed him how, right, Mr. Dow, that day?
I'm just going for a ride. I don't know if I could run that one. I could run the old one that we had.
Of course, this one's an old one too.
Older are sometimes simpler.
Yeah.
Here's a picture. You can see a little drag behind the side by side. They came up with the idea. I'm not sure who exactly. I know they went over to Tractor Supply and grabbed this drag. So the manufactured topsoil is kind of fibrous, and this drag, they drag the area when they're done. It looks beautiful up there.
Helps the seed take probably, huh?
Yeah.
Well, you don't have any though.
Yeah, the temp seed is taken, but yeah, we can't permanently seed anything. They're actually telling us it might be August before we can go back up and seed everything.
Huh. I bet you need a
Whenever
lot of
you have a
water.
big compaction
Yeah,
job, you need water.
Yep. Water trucks are a must on an airport job, especially this one. Our native materials are sandy, so it doesn't take long. Like I was up there Wednesday and there was some spitting of some rain, but the dust is just amazing. And like Jeremy will tell you, like probably Thursday morning after the rain, by 8:30, he's starting to have to run the water truck. The other thing that water will be crucial for is our compaction effort when we get this thing flopped. To get 100% of a modified Proctor, you have to be very close to your optimum moisture content on your materials, which typically are anywhere from 6 to 8%, depending on your material. So the water truck has been and will continue to be busy.
Yep. Might need to supplement that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we have plans to use a local guy to bring it in with a tanker. Here's a picture of the vault. I believe that vault weighed 80,000 pounds.
Wow.
Kobo hired I think it ended up being DeMag that set that. You can see it's pretty sizable crane there in the background. They did ask us originally, and I talked with Ben McKinney about it. We could have done it with our crane, but you can see he's obviously very tight to his load. We would have probably had to be even tighter to the load and maybe had to set and repick. But with everything we got going on with Royalton and Richmond, we opted not to use our crane up here.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So they brought in DeMag, and again, it was part of their subcontract. Really wasn't part of the work we ever planned on doing, anyways.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, you can see the axles on that thing. Gives you a pretty good indication of the weight that they're dealing with.
Right. A heavy haul guy, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. That's not your normal low bed.
Certainly not the kind you just call up, maybe a regular contractor might not wouldn't have this. Ours is very similar, except this was like it's not a beam deck. I'm kind of surprised it's not, but it can, of course, on that kind of load. But it's pretty thin deck, I'd say. It looks like.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks, Mark.
I do have the propeller time lapse open too, if you want to check that out.
Oh yeah, we'd forgotten about that. Yeah, thank you. I would have put that in there it didn't occur to me, but I had talked about it a couple weeks ago and I'd forgotten. Sorry about that. Richard,
No, it's basically it's a time lapse of all the stuff we did at the airport from we have like 4 or 5 drone flights up there that we've done that show all the earth moving. So
do you have a link to that
right.
that we can? You have a link to that, Rich?
I can, yeah.
That'd be cool.
Or like I said, I got it up on my screen right now. I can show it real quick if you want.
Sure.
Go ahead.
So that was basically
I
the
don't
first
see your
flight.
screen. Let me just finish up.
I
don't think you took over. Maybe Matt's not set up right now to take over.
I see it.
Nope. Yeah, we got it, Ken. Just give us a
Okay, I
second.
can't see it for some reason because I think I still have control of the screen, but I don't. All right, I'm here. All right, I see it now. There's the X. And the X.
So that was the last flight we flew about a week ago. Monday, actually. So,
Yeah.
but you can see the that's pretty primarily for the runway, but this is actually the flight that we did for the expansion. So, oh, that's going to be the new runway essentially.
Yep. Nice. All right. Okay, well, I'll just turn it back over to Matt. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Mark.
Yes, very informative. Everybody have a great Memorial Day weekend. Let's finish off today safe.
Yep.
And let's really make sure keys are out of our equipment. Our trailers can be back at the office, or if they are late staying on site, let's please lock everything good and tight. This time last year, we had a truck stolen, lit on fire, and a lot
That's
of
right.
stuff stolen. And that was Memorial Day last year. So
Yeah.
to really site security today as we head out.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Take care, everybody.
Stay safe.